Our bit of good news for today is a two-word statement from Jesus. Take courage. It is a good news that we need to hear in the midst of this crisis that we are going through. Especially when every now and then we tend to lose heart. You know, sometimes I receive text messages from people who struggle with anxiety attacks. And they ask to be prayed over just to be able to calm down. There are those whose worries keep replaying in their heads like a broken record, depriving them of sleep. They find themselves preoccupied with so many questions about a future that is suddenly made uncertain by the COVID pandemic, like what will happen to our business? Will things ever go back to normal? What if we go bankrupt? Will my children be able to return to school? How will they do online learning if their only access to internet is through the internet cafes? What if we need to be hospitalized? How will we pay the hospital bills? Who will look after the kids if we do not survive this? And lots of other questions. My lay co-host in our weekly talk show, Men of Light, Attorney Bong Roque, published an e-book a few days ago. And you know, he gave it away for free. It is entitled, Instead of Sheep. I had a feeling that it was part of a Christmas song, and I had to sing it to be able to get the meaning of it. So I had to repeat it in my mind. And then it played in my mind. And if you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep. There you are. Instead of sheep. I got it. And I texted Brother Bong and I said, haha, very clever. You know, I wouldn't have known immediately what he meant by the title, Instead of Sheep. You know, I know someone who still couldn't sleep after counting 1,000 sheep. Maybe he should read Brother Bong Roque's book. I advise you to check it on Facebook. It might still be freely downloadable. You know, the devil knows how to attack us. He attacks not the outside, but the inside. I have often compared the ways of the evil one with termites. In Tagalog, anay. No, I'm not referring to the harmless red termites that you see on the trunks and branches of mango trees. Those that make earthen lines of tunnels, eating up the bark, those are not really harmful. The really harmful termites are much smaller and they are white, but they are voracious. They eat up the core of the wooden posts and beams, the plywood panels, and then they leave the outer layer. You don't see them. They are unseen. They pass through crevices and even through little pores in the concrete. For the life of me, I don't know how the termites can pass through concrete. They work unnoticed. They nibble slowly, but steadily, until one day, you notice a surface bulging. You tap it like that, and you realize it is hollow inside. Oh, it's amazing how skillfully these little devils can work unnoticed. And one day, the whole structure collapses. The Tagalog word for courage is lakas ng loob. If you translate it literally into English, it is strength inside. We use the expression very often in the form of an exhortation, like, lakasan mo ang loob mo. Literally, be strong inside. It means we value inner strength in the Philippine culture. And the opposite expression is equally meaningful. Huwag kang masisiraan ng loob. Literally, in English, it would say, don't let your inside be destroyed. It's a very graphic description of a linguistic phenomenon about which the Filipino Jesuit anthropologist, Father Albert Alejo, SJ, has written a lot of insightful thoughts. Yes, I am referring to the Jesuit who, like me, was also charged of inciting people to commit sedition. Salamat sa Diyos, the charges were eventually dismissed by the Department of Justice. Just very recently, Paring Bert, and that's how he is known to his friends, Paring Bert posted a video briefly explaining the rich meaning of the term loob for us Filipinos. And he says, even when applied to a humble dwelling that we call bahay kubo, a nipa hut, you know, in the video, he entered the little nipa hut, which was only around 2 by 2 square meters. But it was all open on the sides. And then when he entered, he said, look, this is the loob. This is the loob. But you know, he said, the loob for us connotes more than the inner physical space of 2 by 2 square meters. Rather, it has to do with a sense of interiority that opens to the wide expanse of the world outside as long as you can open your windows. And when the world outside is affected, you cannot remain unaffected. Because for us, the inner and outer spaces are united by the sense of interiority. And it is also not easy to destroy because it is bigger than me. In our first reading, St. Paul introduces the Holy Spirit for the first time to a group of people who knew only about the baptism of John the Baptist. They knew of baptism only as a conversion from sin, but they didn't know what it was for. That it was conversion from sin in order to be converted to a life in the Spirit. A life in the Spirit. St. Paul invites these new converts who are sincere, not just to cleanse the loob, but to widen their space for interiority by letting the Holy Spirit dwell within them. You know, I know one theology professor who proposes to translate Holy Spirit into Filipino not as Espiritu Santo, but as ang kagandahang loob ng Diyos. There is your loob again. Jesus, by the way, also says in the Gospel, you will be scattered, and you will leave me alone. Yet, I am not alone, for the Father is with me. Our loob, our interiority, becomes truly strong only when it opens up and makes space for God. Only then will it make space for other people and for the world. Maybe that is what Jesus means when he says in his farewell address, remember in chapter 14 which we read several days ago, Jesus said, in my Father's house there are many rooms. Well, if you paraphrase that, Jesus, as it were, is saying, in my Father's house, there is a lot of space. And I think that is true about the Filipino home. There is so much space. I'm not referring to physical space. I am referring to the interiority. The world out there belongs to that whole sense of interiority. To make space for God is to say to the evil one, sorry for you, there is no space here for you. You will be surprised. If you make space for the Holy Spirit, what you find yourself capable of doing. The famous liturgical song captures it very well. And let me just end by quoting a few lines from that famous liturgical song, which I am sure you are familiar with. The song says, "You shall cross the barren desert, but you shall not die of thirst. You shall wander far in safety, though you do not know the way." And then another verse, "If you pass through raging waters in the sea, you shall not drown. If you walk amid the burning flames, you shall not be harmed. If you stand before the power of hell, and death is at your side, know that I am with you through it all." Beautiful. There. I have quoted enough lines to be able to remind you of the title of the song. Well, today's good news is a two-word statement. Take courage. The title of that song is also a two-word statement. But I've given you a hint already for the title of the song. Let it be your assignment.
You shall cross the barren desert, but you shall not die of thirst. You shall wander far in safety, though you do not know the way. You shall speak your words in foreign lands, and all will understand. You shall see the face of God and live. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest. If you pass through raging waters, in the sea you shall not drown. If you walk amid the burning flames, you shall not be harmed. If you stand before the power of hell, and death is at your side, know that I am with you through